what I really admire about you, Temisia, is your heart for people and your willingness to use who you are and what you have to reach people.
It took me years to figure out that I had value that didn't have to be one of those out front things. God gave me these gifts, and this is how I can use them.
You're listening to As You Go, a production of Free Will Baptist Women's Ministries. At Free Will Baptist Women's Ministries, we're all about helping women fulfill our role in the Great Commission. Jesus said, as you're going, make disciples. So in our podcast, we want to focus on being a disciple, growing in discipleship and in obedience, and then making disciples. Hi, I'm Ruth McDonald. I'm the director of Free Will Baptist Women's Ministries and the host of your podcast today. Today I have with me a special guest, my friend Temisia Brown. She works at an accounting office here in Nashville, and she attends Cross Timbers FWB Baptist Church. And she's been my friend for quite a long time. Temisia has some really interesting ministry ideas that she is implementing as she reaches out to young girls in our church. So I'm really glad you're here. I think you're going to really enjoy hearing from her about how we as women can have an influence on the young girls and young women around us. So thank you, Temisia, for coming in today. I know you had to take off work to come, and I really appreciate that.
I am happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. And I'm so excited about the things that you're doing, and I'm just waiting to see how God blesses them. And I just thought it would be a great thing to share with our ladies.
Thank you.
So I've been asking all my guests the same question because it's kind of a get to know you question. When you were a little girl, what did Temisia want to be when she grew up?
So I wanted to be two different things.
Okay.
I wanted to be an accountant.
That's really interesting because that's kind of what you are.
Almost. I had an uncle who was an accountant, and I thought he was really cool. And just really adored him. I don't know if he ever even knew how much I adored him, but I did. And then the other thing is I wanted to be a forensic scientist. And I don't know why. This was way before CSI and all of that, but I wanted to do autopsies and figure out why people were.
That is so funny to me. How old were you when you thought that?
I was like a young teen.
Okay, all right. So you weren't like 6-year-old wanting to do autopsies.
I didn't, and I didn't practice on animals around me or
I'm glad to
anything
hear
like
that.
I didn't know. I did though. That desire helped in biology because I really didn't mind at all cutting things open that were already dead.
Okay. So you were a math and science girl. Kind of.
More than anything else. I can't say that I was like really studious at all. I by far was not near as smart as my sister, but I did like my math and sciences.
Okay. Those are really like intellectual goals for a girl. I think that's
I'm not.
Fun. That's fun. I was asking my granddaughter, Audrey, one day, she had gone to Disneyland. Oh. And I said, oh, that's so fun, Audrey. Do you want to be a princess when you grow up? And she said, no, I think I want to be the person that makes up the rides.
I can totally see that. I know Audrey.
So that sounds like Temisia.
And I can totally see that.
Little Temisia was like that, and forget the princess. I want to be an accountant and a forensic scientist.
That's what I wanted to be.
I think that's so fun. But it is also interesting to me in that you are working in finances in an accounts payable, accounts receivable.
I am. I'm in an accounts payable department. I manage a group that handles the payment of invoices for pharmacy.
Okay.
And in that, part of my job is research. So I kind of touched on both of them at the same time.
That's so fun.
I'm not an accountant. And I do not have a science degree.
You're married to an accountant.
I am married to an accountant, but I'm not one myself.
That's funny.
But I do get to work with numbers and research all the time.
I think it's so fun when I ask the guests that question because some people, it's like totally out there in left field, not related to what they are at all as an adult. And then sometimes it's like you, where that's kind of been an abiding, interest or bent in your personality. That's fun. So I'm assuming that you were saved as a young girl. I know you were a pastor's daughter and grew up in a Christian home.
Yes, I was saved when I was in my late 4-year-old
Oh, wow.
range. Right before I was 5, but I came home from church one day and sat in my dad's lap and just told him that I wanted to be a Christian. And I don't know what happened at church that made me feel that way. But we prayed and I was saved at that point. Being so early, there were many things that happened between that point and adulthood, and ups and downs and so forth and so on.
Well, we always hear, that it's just even a little child can come to faith in Christ. And I really believe that. I was a child when I came to faith in Christ as well. And I think for those of you who are parenting out there and you have infants or small children, to raise them in a Christian environment where they always know that Jesus loves them, I think it just becomes as natural as any other milestone that they want to place their faith and in Christ and love him back.
Yes.
So I think that's not an unusual experience for those that are raised in that kind of environment. So, Temisia, I know I asked you in advance to give you a little time to think about it, but I'm curious to know what women in your life were influential to help you learn how to follow Christ. I know that we didn't talk a lot about discipleship back then, but surely there were some people that discipled you in some way.
Yeah. And as I thought about that, my initial thought was, oh no, I didn't have any disciples or mentors growing up. I was lacking, but I think maybe just the terminology was different. Right. There were multiple people. There were Sunday school classes when I was younger. We actually attended churches that were on the larger side. I guess large is a relative term. Yes, but they were larger churches, and one of them was a pastor's wife herself, Diane Worthington, who I just adored and thought she was the best thing ever. The other was just a Sunday school teacher. Her name, I do not know her first name. Okay. But it was Mrs. Hass. And I think what separated her from other Sunday school teachers I had was that she spent time with us outside of class. Oh. She invited us to her house. And I don't recall us doing anything spectacular. I'm sure she fed us because we would go after church. So surely she fed us. And then we just played games. I remember specifically playing hopscotch, but it could have been other things. We were a group of girls. I don't remember there being any boys there, but yeah, that well,
boys had cooties back then.
I mean,
right?
They surely did.
Yeah, I'm sure they did too.
As I got older, there were different people. We moved from there, and we were in smaller churches, and a lot of times there weren't any kids. And when there were, we lived so far away from them that there wasn't really a lot of socialization other than seeing them at church. And so during that time, my peers were more my mentors, and I had some really good friends who were both Christians. Good. And they, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that as a teen, your mentor be your peer group. Right. But in this instance, that is what I had other than my mom. And they were good mentors. They were a good peer group.
I mean, what a blessing it is to have good friends that do influence you in the right way. Because I think we always think about peer pressure as a negative, but peer pressure can be a positive if the friends are, putting not pressure really, but influence on you that leads you to good and to God. Right. So God was looking out for you by providing different people in your life to help you grow in the Lord. I don't know if she helped you grow in the Lord or not, but tell us about your little bus, your lunch lady.
Oh, my lunch lady. I adored. I can't believe I forgot her.
Yeah, that's okay. Was she a believer, or was this just something?
You know what? I don't know.
You don't know.
She
okay.
was just.
So it may not be in the spiritual realm that she discipled you, but just tell us about her. That was cute.
Correct. So there was a period of time in my, I think 5th, 6th grade, where I rode the bus back and forth to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really fond of sitting in the back with all the rowdy people. I would sit in the front, and she allowed me to sit beside her. She worked in the lunchroom, and she would sit on the ride back and forth from school crocheting. And she taught me how to crochet.
That's so fun.
In fact,
what grade was that?
It was 5th and 6th grade. In 7th grade, I had chicken pox, and I had a really, really bad case of them.
Oh, no.
And that was my first paying job. Is I made a shawl and a little tam for some little girl. I don't even know who. And got paid for it by crocheting.
Oh, wow.
That was my first paid job.
Now, I have to insert here that even though you are working in accounts payable.
Yes.
Temisia is an awesome seamstress and has worked with wedding dresses and alterations. I mean, she's got another huge page in her portfolio. So that does not surprise me that your first paying job was creating something and selling it. So we're not focusing in on that today, but I just thought I'd add that in.
Yeah. Well, and all of that actually takes math as well.
Oh, that's
There's
true.
a lot of math in crafts.
And art.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so when you were little and there were all these women speaking into your life, you didn't exactly think, oh, I want to do that when I get big. Probably.
No.
But it's interesting to me, the kind of woman that you've turned into. You are a natural at looking outward to the girls in your life. And that's the kind of ministry I am interested in talking about today, that I have noticed, because we're in the same church, that you are reaching out to the young girls in our church. And I don't guess you ever drew the direct line from those people that reached out to you and what you're doing. But I think that as we've gotten ready for this podcast, I think you may have seen that what they did for you and you're now doing for other girls, which is really cool. I love that.
And I don't think that I thought of it in those terms, because I really, when you first asked that question, I was like, there was nobody that spoke into my life.
Yeah,
but
there was.
And I was like, well, maybe that's why I'm doing it, because I didn't have that, but I actually did have that. It may not have been as prevalent or as in your face, but it was there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the example of that, even though I didn't realize it at the time.
Let me just say, I think that we get tripped up sometimes with the new, I say new, it's not new, but the last decade or more, we've been talking a lot about mentoring, older women mentoring younger women, older women discipling younger women. And I think that we get tripped up on the official title. And I've talked to a lot of women who are like, oh, well, I've never mentored anyone. And then I talk to younger women who are like, oh, I wish I could get an older woman to mentor me. And so I feel like it's like a fill out a job application and apply kind of a official position in our minds. But I don't think that's actually the way it's supposed to be. I think it's more of a natural, do life together kind of a relationship. I heard James Dobson saying one time on Focus on the Family that in the past, when extended families lived closer together, like in the agricultural homesteading kind of background of America, women had their sisters, their mothers-in-law, their grandmas, they had them all around them to teach them skills, teach them how to, just teach them by example, how to grieve, how to rejoice, all the things. And so we had that built in. But now, because we all live separate from our extended, not all, but a lot of us live far away from that family unit, we don't have the natural built-in women that just come alongside us and teach us how to live and how to live for Christ, especially. So I think that those women you talked about, I'm sure some of them were very intentional, like the Sunday school teacher who had her girls over.
Yes.
And the pastor's wife who did things for the girls. But others were probably just living their lives in front of you, and you were catching
yes,
a lot of what they were modeling.
And it can be as easy as there is seldom a time when I am at church that there is one particular older lady who doesn't come up to me and at least say hi. Now, she may say more than that, and often does, but she always talks to me. And it can be something as simple as that. Now, it does have, it does have to be more than that.
Right.
Eventually, or, at some point. But for her, just for her to come up and say hi to me,
she
makes my day. It makes my day.
I understand that. We need one another.
I was at church and she recognized that I was at church.
Right. Yeah.
And
we need that. We need other women in our lives. We certainly do. So tell me when you started reaching out to the young girls in our church, and maybe what was your thought process? Well, first of all, tell me what you're doing, and then maybe we can talk about why you started doing it.
Okay. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing.
That's okay. None of us do.
Right. So I'm just trying to provide time for me to spend with the young girls. And we've kind of have it divided up into anything from 4th grade up to 12th grade.
Okay. That's a broad range.
Sometimes you're right. And sometimes we say, well, this particular thing needs older girls only. And so we may divide it up into that, or I may do something that only involves some of the younger girls. At the time that we started it, so we started it a few years ago. At the time that I started, I was teaching Sunday school for the 1st through 3rd grade. And we realized that we really couldn't incorporate that younger girl in with the older teenagers. It was just too wide of a span.
Right.
But as we go and as we talk about it, my goal is that it would expand to reach everyone.
Okay. So what is it? What is it that you're doing? How often and what?
So right at this moment, we are doing once a month. They just come to my house. Sometimes it's a Sunday after church. Sometimes it's a Saturday. Kids are so busy during this age, this time period. They, so sometimes it's kind of hard to get them all together, but whoever can, they come. We do lots of different things. Sometimes we bake. We've baked muffins and things that they actually used for a fundraiser. We've done muffins for Our Ladies Brunch. We've cooked meals and delivered them to people in our church who, this was more like right at the beginning of COVID, where they weren't able to get out as much. One of the things we have slated later on is to do cards for a group of people. We've macrameed. We've crocheted at a different time, not specifically during this time period. We've, oh goodness, I mean, just any craft I could think of. In the past, before we kind of organized doing this on a regular basis, we've sewn. Most of the girls were younger, and they all did fleece ponchos one winter. And
it almost sounds like you're having home ec for the girls in the church.
Honestly, I'm actually just having fun.
Yeah, I understand that.
They just get to participate.
I get that.
So really just anything that I can come up with that I enjoy doing, then I let them be a part of it.
And so you have a bunch of rambunctious little girls, and you feed them and you teach them something. I'm sure you pray with them.
Yes. I think, I am... Despite the fact that I really like math and science, I am not an intellectual.
Okay.
So we don't do any real deep Bible studies, but we do pray. I think for me, I think that at their age, the most important thing is for them to read the Bible for themselves. You can spend a whole lifetime in church, but if you really don't read the Bible for yourself, you can't necessarily know God the way you need to know him.
I agree.
And
Absolutely.
so it's really important for me. In fact, there was a time that we actually had a craft slated, and it was just so heavy on my heart that the girls really needed to read and they needed to have a good Bible that I got Bibles together, and we ended up spending the whole time just talking about different ways that you could read through the Bible. And I thought they're going to hate me. And they actually didn't. They didn't hate me at all.
That was my next question. How did they respond to that?
They were great. Most of them had study Bibles already that were along the same lines as what I had gotten. But those who didn't were willing to take one with them.
Good.
And a couple of girls who didn't want to take one at the time because for whatever reason, when I asked them if they would take one later on, when there weren't other people around, they were more than willing to take one.
So it was kind of a embarrassment or something.
Yes, yes.
To do it in front of other people.
Right.
So without breaching any confidentiality or anything, are these girls all from Christian homes or some not?
They are all from Christian homes.
Okay.
They have had varying...
So they're your church girls.
They are. Mm-hmm. They are all our church girls. Okay. I would love it if other people attended.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's difficult.
Right.
Unless the girls invite other people to come.
Yes, of course.
It's really difficult in today's world for me to go out and say, hey, send your girls over to my house.
People will be like, she's creepy.
Yeah.
Or potentially that could be a problem.
The girls are always welcome to bring other girls, and we have actually had a visitor here and there.
Good.
One of them I kind of adopted as one of my girls.
Nice.
Sometimes she calls me mom.
Aww.
And but she doesn't come all the time, and she's graduating tonight and will be headed off to college. But different ones have brought someone here and there, but nobody regularly.
Okay. I just think that's really great. And I think it's a model that the women who are listening and watching today could use. It may or may not be crocheting and sewing and baking, but the most important bottom line thing is that you're spending time with these girls. And I think that just says, I love you. I'm interested in you. I'm here. If you need to talk to somebody, find me. I mean, you're valuable. It says so many things. And I'm thinking back on, my life, and I don't know that I had anybody that wasn't family that ever spent that kind of time and invested that kind of time in me. I mean, I think all my teachers remained at church or school. I don't think I was ever invited to their homes. So I just think it's great that you both had that as a little girl and that you're providing that now for these other girls. And you don't have an official title. You're not doing it because it's your job.
No.
You're just doing it because you love these little girls and you want to speak into their lives.
At some point, someone at church mentioned that the girls needed something outside of church.
Okay.
They needed to be able to get together. They needed to, they didn't use the word again, mentoring.
Yeah.
But that they needed to build relationships with other people. And it was something I could do. I told you one time, nobody is ever going to ask me to sing in church. Even in congregational singing.
I don't know. I've never heard you sing. If I ever did, I might
ask me to quit. And they're not going to ask me to play the piano. They are not going to ask me to do some deep theological study. Those are just things that aren't me. But this is something that I can do. Yeah. This is something, and it took me years to figure out that I had value that didn't have to be one of those out front things.
Yes.
I do what I do because this is what I can do. And God gave me these gifts, and this is how I can use them.
So the most important thing, what I really admire about you, Temisia, is your heart for people and your willingness to use who you are and what you have to reach people. I just think that's awesome. And I mean, you still remember the woman who taught you to crochet. And these girls are never going to forget the things you've taught them. And more than that, the warmth and love of the person that taught them those skills. So I just love that. And you may not ever know what your influence was on them, but I am confident you are having an influence on them. I got to tack on one more thing. Because of the lunch lady and the crochet, I'm just like, as I was listening to that today, I was like, ding, 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 ding. Because tell me what's happening tonight at your church.
Oh, tonight at our church, we are having crochet and coffee.
Tell me about that and when it started and why. This is another Temisia Brown thing.
You know, why did it start? I don't remember. I really don't remember. I know that I was talking with Anna at one point about getting together and getting together with people who are inside the church, outside the church, and reaching other ladies in the neighborhood. Now, we have not reached any neighbors in the any ladies in the neighborhood.
Ladies in the neighborhood.
I know.
Neighbors in the ladyhood.
But it is just a time for women of any age.
Well, you've only had it like 3 or 4 times now.
I think about 5 now.
Oh, is it that many?
Yeah. And even guys, we had one of our teen boys come.
He wanted to learn to crochet.
He wanted to see if he could do it. And he was a blast.
That's funny. That's great.
My son-in-law has said that he's going to come sometime, that he crocheted when he was a kid.
I mean, my son knows how to crochet and my father-in-law knew how to crochet. Did you know that? Yeah.
I did not know that your father-in-law did.
He did.
We have another gentleman in our church that is rather old that also crochets.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily just women, although that was kind of the thought initially. But, you know, we don't do anything special.
You bring your project
and
you come and you crochet and you talk.
Yes, I have a box of supplies for anybody who may come without supplies.
But I was only able to attend once because I'm out of town all the time, but we had 20-something people there the night I was there, which is great.
Yes.
We were all just sitting around having a great time.
Yes. And, you know, as
some were knitting, some were crocheting.
Yes.
Maybe somebody was doing cross stitch or something that night, but
probably.
Yeah.
We've kind of morphed to any kind of craft that you want to do. There's a lady who brings her quilting because that's what she's doing right now. We've had someone who's brought computer generated art, drawing, coloring, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Somebody last time did crossword puzzles.
Okay. They just wanted to be in the fellowship.
Right. It's called Crochet and Coffee, but really, it is just a time for the women to get together
love that.
And hang out.
And your prayer and your hope is that through this, some people who are unchurched, not saved, will have a comfortable place to come and be with Christians, right?
Yes.
I think that was your motive.
It was the motive. It was what I really wanted is for people from the neighborhood. We haven't had anybody yet, but we've
keep praying for that.
A couple of people who have called interested, but have not actually come.
Yeah, we'll just keep praying for that to happen. And I think, Temisia, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I know that you've been participating in something that's called the Hope Initiative. Part of that is talking about sort of revitalizing the church and helping the church to reach outside the church. And I know that one of the emphases that is in the Hope Initiative is that maybe as we all brainstorm and do some green light thinking, we can think about what is it that we have that we could use to make an opportunity for Christians and non-Christians to be together so that our influence can be more in the world. And I think you were probably in the middle of all that too when you started the crochet outreach.
I think we probably were. Yeah. This is, again, it's something totally selfish. Maybe selfish is a bad word, but...
well, you enjoy it.
I don't do well meeting new people. I know this may sound crazy, but I am scared to death of new people.
Okay.
So this is a way that I can do something that people can come into my space, and I can meet with them in my space. A past church that we attended, I would make cream cheese, pound cake, little small loaves, and I would give them out to people after church. And especially if we had visitors, I would make sure that a visitor got one. But it was my way of being able to break that barrier of being fearful of meeting people and talking to people. And I was just giving them bread.
That's really cool, though. I mean, we just actually put out a blog post on a different site that was written by one of our missionaries who considers herself an introvert. And it was about being an introvert in a job that's usually thought of as for extroverts, a missionary. And we got really good response from that blog. And I hear you saying the same thing. It's like there are things that would be difficult for you, but you're finding a way to be outward and reach out to people in a way that's comfortable to you.
Yes.
And I love that because we all have something. And I honestly see you as very brave.
I'm not.
No, but I mean, you don't have to be like up and talking to 5,000 people in order to be brave. But I see you doing the things. Well, I think it's really brave of you to put yourself out there and do what you are good at and trust God with the results. I just think that's awesome. And I wish that everyone had a heart like yours, Temisia, that would be looking around for the people that are in need and for the potential of what God can do with what's in your hand. And that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast today. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, you were welcome. I think for me, and it's taken years to get here, years and years to get here, but there's a verse in the Bible that I really like, and I don't have it memorized. I can tell you right now, so I will.
That's okay. You can paraphrase.
Yep.
This is the
try not to
Temisia
take
Living
it
Bible.
completely out of context or anything,
Okay.
but it is Esther 4:14.
Okay.
And this is the place where Esther is at that point to where she is trying to decide if she is willing to do what she needs to do in order to save her people.
Mm-hmm. Is it the perhaps?
Perhaps.
Perhaps
yes.
this is the time.
Yes.
What is the verse?
Such a time as this. It is Esther 4:14. So it says, and the end of it says, and who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this. And that for such a time as this is, okay, you have all of these experiences. And throughout my life, I've had really good experiences and I've had really bad experiences. Yes. And God can use all of these experiences. I used to think he could only use the good ones.
Oh, no, not at all.
And that the bad ones weren't useful at all.
Maybe we can have you back another day to talk about the bad ones. What do you think? Not
see.
Sure about that, huh?
We'll see.
Okay.
If we survive this one.
Okay.
But there's another part, that the beginning of that verse, it actually says, for if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from someplace else. And it's a warning. God has given you this life to do something for him with. And yeah, sure. If I don't have the girls over, then somebody else will pick up the slack. Somebody else will do it.
Maybe.
But this is something that I can do. There are a lot of things I can't do, but this is something I can do. And so that's what's important to me.
It's about availability, not ability, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you have both, Temisia, I just want to say.
Well, maybe in this
we're
area.
Not any of us able to do everything, but we're all able to do something. And I just love your heart for being able to do whatever you do heartily unto the Lord for his glory.
Thank you.
So I'm going to continue to pray that God richly blesses your outreach. I will call it ministry to the little girls and to the crocheting ladies, and that just great things will come of that. So thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for listening. And go out and think about what you have that you can give. What can you do to extend God's love and His kingdom?